Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You are here today with Jane and Molly. Molly's been getting pets and cuddles all morning. Today's topic for June 29th is the dawn. So as you can see, we're still in our PJs because we went out and watched the sunrise this morning as Mark went off to work. But we went and watched the sunrise this morning. Then we read some stories outside. And then she told me to go on and get to work. So here I am. But today, with our final 2 days, today and tomorrow for June, and our month of the hero and quests and our Pathfinder, we have been returning back to where we came from, but we are realizing that the journey has changed us as well as our absence has changed the place we are coming back to. But today with the dawn, our theme is new beginnings. So today is all about new beginnings, and our lesson is that one journey births another. It's the old saying, the dawn is always brightest after the darkest night, after the darkest storms. And that's kind of what we get to experience today is the dawn returning and that reminder that light will always come back, right? The darkness will always fade away, huh? We're going to see that through 4 stories today. We're going to see it through Egyptian, Hindu, Incan, and Baltic folklore today. And then we are going to think about what begins again. As we enter into July, we are officially going towards and transitioning into our second half of the year, at least the way that it's set up now. But we are entering into our second half of the year. So we are really ending, and starting anew after this month. Sorry, I just totally booped your nose. Bless you. But we're going to think about what begins again as that new half of the year comes. And then we are going to wake earlier than usual when possible, greeting the day deliberately. So a lot of these activities, Mark and I do try to do them the day that we talk about them, the day that that's the topic, but we also don't force them. So some days we do the day after, or we do it the week after. We just kind of let it flow. This one is just whenever you can this week, try to wake up with the sun or before the sun and really experience and watch how the earth wakes up. So when the light comes back over that horizon, there's so much to experience and see and feel. And that's what we want to be a part of, right? We want to be a part of that. So as we do that, really embrace and feel what it's like to wake with the sun and to see that light cross over the horizon. And then we're going to step into new beginnings with awareness of the journey that made it possible. So we're going to take acknowledgement of all of the stuff we've gone through, right, Molly? This past month, and we are stepping into new things. But today we are enjoying the dawn, or if not today, someday this week. We're going to enjoy the dawn. Then we're going to get our garden and our paradise tomorrow. And then we start off all brand new, huh, buddy? Yes. Anyways, that's all I have for you today, the dawn. As you can tell, I'm just loving the pets, loving life. I love any day that I can wake up early and just kind of wake up with the earth, I guess. I do like the days that Mark can be here, obviously, to do that. But you gotta appreciate what we have every single day, huh, Moss? Yep. And with that, I will see you guys all tomorrow. See ya. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1: Ra and the Journey Through the Duat. Each evening as the sun disappeared beyond the western horizon and shadows stretched across the Nile, the people of Egypt believed that Ra, Lord of the Sun, began a journey hidden from mortal eyes. Though darkness settled upon the land, Ra had not vanished. Instead, he boarded his solar bark and entered the Duat, the vast and mysterious realm through which he traveled each night before dawn could return. The Duat was unlike the world of the living. Rivers flowed through caverns lit by strange fires. An enormous gate stood guarded by powerful beings whose names were known only to the gods. As Ra's vessel moved forward, divine companions traveled beside him, helping him navigate the dangers that filled the underworld. The souls of the blessed watched from distant shores, while spirits and guardians observed the passing of the great solar boat. Yet none of these wonders posed the greatest threat to the journey. Deep within the darkness waited Apophis, the serpent of chaos. Vast beyond measure, the creature lurked among the hidden waters of the Duat, seeking every night to halt the progress of the sun. As Ra's bark approached the darkest region of the underworld, the serpent rose from the shadows. Its enormous coils churned the river, and its eyes burned with hatred for the order Ra brought to the world. The water shook beneath its movement, and the passage ahead seemed to disappear beneath its body. The gods traveling with Ra prepared themselves for battle. Some cast nets woven from divine power, while others spoke sacred words meant to weaken the serpent. Apophis lunged toward the solar bark, attempting to swallow both vessel and crew. For a moment, darkness seemed to close around them. The struggle echoed through the chambers of the Duat as order and chaos met in conflict once again. But Ra could not be stopped. The light within him burned brighter than the darkness surrounding him. As the battle continued, the serpent's strength faltered beneath the combined efforts of the gods. The coils loosened, the path ahead opened. Slowly the bark pressed onward, leaving the defeated creature behind within the shadows of the underworld. Beyond the final gates of the Duat lay the eastern horizon. There, the solar bark emerged from the darkness into light. The first glow of dawn spread across the sky, and the people of Egypt awoke to another day. Birds called from the reeds, fishermen launched their boats upon the Nile, and temple priests greeted the rising sun with prayers and offerings. To them, sunrise was more than a daily event. It was a visible sign of Ra's victory. Thus, each dawn became a reminder that darkness never endured forever. No matter how long the night seemed, the journey continued. The gates opened, and the sun returned once more to illuminate the world. Story 2: Surya's Chariot Across the Sky. Before the first light touched the earth, when the world still rested beneath the fading stars, the eastern horizon remained wrapped in silence. Villages slept, rivers flowed quietly through the darkness, and only a few early risers stirred from their beds. Yet, according to ancient traditions, this peaceful hour marks the beginning of Surya's daily journey across the heavens. Surya, the radiant sun deity, traveled in a magnificent golden chariot drawn by 7 horses, whose brilliance matched the colors of the dawn. As the darkness began to retreat, the chariot emerged upon the horizon, carrying light, warmth, and the life of the world below. The appearance of Surya signaled the awakening of all living things. Birds lifted their voices in song, flowers turned toward the growing light, and people stepped outside to greet the new day. Among these who welcomed the sunrise was a young student who lived beside a broad river. Every morning before dawn, he noticed his teacher walking toward the water's edge. No matter the season, the teacher stood facing the east and waited quietly for the sun to appear. The student observed this practice for many months before finally gathering the courage to ask why it mattered so much. One morning, he rose early and followed his teacher through the cool darkness. Mist drifted above the river, and the sky remained deep blue overhead. Together, they stood in silence as the first hints of gold appeared beyond the horizon. Gradually, the colors deepened. Bands of orange, crimson, and rose spread across the sky until the upper edge of the sun finally emerged. The teacher folded his hands and bowed respectfully toward the light. The student watched, fascinated by the daily ritual. "Why do you greet the sunrise every morning?" he asked. The teacher smiled and looked toward the growing brilliance of the dawn. He explained that Surya's journey reminded people that each day carried the responsibility of renewal. Yesterday's failures, worries, and disappointments belonged to the past. Just as the sun returned after every night, people could begin again after every hardship. The student listened while sunlight spread across the river. The water reflected the golden sky, and the world seemed transformed by the arrival of morning. Over time, he joined his teacher each day, learning to appreciate the quiet moments before sunrise. He noticed that no dawn was ever exactly the same. Some mornings arrived beneath clear skies, while others emerged through clouds and rain. Yet Surya always appeared, continuing his journey without fail. Years later, after his teacher had grown old, the student carried the tradition forward. Whenever he stood beside the river at dawn, he remembered the lesson hidden within the rising sun. Each morning marked not merely the start of another day, but an invitation to begin anew. Thus, Surya's daily passage across the heavens became more than a celestial event. It became a reminder that life moves in cycles, that darkness eventually gives way to light, and that every dawn offers another opportunity to continue the journey. Story 3: Inti and the Return of the Sun. High among the Andes Mountains, where stone cities rested above the clouds and snow-covered peaks watched over fertile valleys, the people honored Inti, the great sun god. His warmth nourished the crops that grew upon terraced hillsides, and his light guided daily life throughout the empire. Yet each year there came a season when the days grew shorter, the nights lengthened, and the sun seemed to withdraw farther from the earth. As winter settled across the mountains, concern spread among the people. The mornings arrived later, shadows lingered longer, and the chill of the highlands deepened. Though the changes came gradually, everyone noticed them. Farmers looked toward the sky and wondered when the strength of the sun would return. Elders reassured the young that this cycle had occurred many times before. Yet they also understood the importance of honoring Inti during this season. In the city of Cusco, preparations began for a great ceremony. Messengers traveled roads that crossed mountains and valleys, carrying news that people would gather to celebrate the return of the sun. Families journeyed toward the city, bringing offerings and provisions for the festival. By the appointed time, the plazas and temples were filled with people who had come from across the empire. Before dawn on the day of the ceremony, the city stood in darkness. The air was cold and silence rested over the gathered crowd. Men, women, and children waited patiently while priests watched the eastern horizon. No fires were lit, no one spoke loudly. All attention remained fixed upon the place where the sun would eventually appear. As the first faint glow touched the mountains, anticipation swept through the assembly. The darkness slowly retreated from the valleys. Golden light crept along the peaks, illuminating stone walls and temple courtyards. Then, at last, the sun rose above the horizon. The great cry of joy erupted from the crowd. The people lifted their heads toward the sky as Inti's warmth returned to the world. Musicians began to play, offerings were presented, prayers of gratitude echoed through the city. What had seemed distant and diminished during the winter months now appeared renewed in strength and brilliance. Throughout the day, celebration filled Cusco. Dancers moved through the plazas, families shared meals, and stories were told about the bond between the people and the sun. The return of Inti was not viewed merely as a seasonal event. It represented the renewal of life itself. The earth would warm once more, crops would grow, the cycle that sustained the world would continue. For generations, the people remembered these ceremonies and the promises they had carried. No matter how long the nights became, the sun always returned. Each dawn and each new season reminded them that endings often gave way to beginnings, and that renewal waited beyond even the longest darkness. Story 4: Saule's Morning Journey. Long before great kingdoms rose along the shores of the Baltic Sea, the people of the region told stories of Saule, the radiant sun goddess whose daily journey carried light across the world. Each morning she emerged from the eastern horizon in a shining chariot, and each evening she descended beyond the western edge of the sky. Through her faithful passage the seasons turned, crops matured, and life continued. One winter the night seemed unusually long. Snow covered the forests. Rivers slept beneath thick ice, and cold winds swept across the countryside. In a small village surrounded by pine trees, families gathered around the hearth fires while darkness settled early each afternoon. Children listened carefully as elders shared stories about Saule and her journey through the heavens. Among these children was a young girl who often wondered where the sun traveled after it disappeared each evening. Whenever she asked, the elders smiled and spoke of Saule's great voyage. They said that after sunset, the goddess crossed mysterious waters beyond the sight of mortals, carrying the light safely through the darkness so that it could return again at dawn. The girl found comfort in the story, especially during the heart of winter when daylight seemed so brief. Each morning she woke before sunrise and hurried to the window. There she watched the eastern sky, waiting for the first signs of light. Day after day she observed the same miracle. The darkness always yielded. The horizon always brightened. The sun always returned. One particularly cold morning she climbed a nearby hill before dawn. Snow crunched beneath her boots, and her breath drifted through the air like pale clouds. Reaching the summit, she looked out across the sleeping landscape. Forests stretched toward the horizon, and the world remained wrapped in shadow. Then the sky began to change. A faint band of gold appeared in the east. It widened slowly, painting the clouds with shades of rose and amber. The girl watched in awe as the first edge of the sun emerged above the horizon. Light spilled across the snow-covered fields, transforming them into a sea of sparkling brilliance. For a moment, she imagined Saule herself guiding the chariot of the sun across the heavens. The sight filled her with wonder. The long winter night no longer seemed endless. The return of light felt certain and dependable, just as the elders had promised. Years later, the girl became an elder herself. Whenever winter settled across the land, she shared the stories she had once heard beside the fire. Children listened just as she once had, and each dawn continued to prove the truth hidden within the tale. No matter how dark the night became, the journey of Saule always brought the light back. Thus, her story endured through generations, carrying with it a simple promise, remembered across the Baltic lands. Every darkness has its dawn, and every ending gives way to a new beginning. Daily Thread for June 29th, The Dawn. Every ending creates a threshold. The ancient stories often understood that what appears to be an ending is frequently the beginning of something else. Night gives way to the morning. Winter yields to spring. A completed journey opens the path to a new one. The rising sun became one of humanity's oldest symbols because it offered a visible reminder that renewal is woven into the fabric of existence. Ra emerged from the darkness of the Duat each dawn. Surya crossed the heavens each morning, bringing light to the world. Inti returned after the long season of darkness, and Saule continued her fateful journey across the sky no matter how cold the winter became. Across cultures separated by oceans and centuries, the message remained remarkably similar. Life moves forward through cycles of renewal. The dawn does not erase the night that came before it, nor does a new beginning erase the experience that shaped it. Instead, each sunrise carries the memory of what came before while offering the possibility of what comes next. People often wait for perfect circumstances before beginning again. Yet the old stories suggest that renewal is rarely about perfection. It is about continuation. The sun rises whether the previous day was joyful or difficult. It rises whether plans succeed or failed. It rises because movement itself is part of life. Every person encounters moments when one chapter closes and another begins. Those transitions can feel uncertain, but they can also carry opportunity. The dawn reminds us that every ending contains the seed of a new journey waiting to unfold. The question is not whether a new beginning is coming. The question is whether we are willing to step forward and meet it.